May I have order, please? I'd like to, excuse me, I'd like to have order, please. I'd like to call a special community development committee to order. That's customary. Let's bow our head in silence, please. Amen. Next, we have on the agenda is the public participation. How many people that we have signed up?
We have two individuals signed up, Anthony Bryant and Jerry Harris.
Wait, do we have anyone online?
Mr. Harris, are you online with us? No, I don't believe so.
Okay, we can call the next person. We give them a minute and a half.
All right.
I think I'll call to see if we have anyone else after that.
Okay.
Anthony G. Bryant, President of E.G. Bryant Group, Inc. The question is this $175 million pulled from the $380 million? That leaves us to $205 million. Secondly, this committee was founded on Black census tracts, 1970 to 1990. We now have been reduced to one council member. Two council members that are Black. We have basically $8 million in tourism. Culture has 32,000 on the waiting list, all on Black folk. Black folk made up the city for 350 years as slaves. So I'm trying to figure out whether the chairman of this committee, the mayor of this city will do what Joe Riley would do and would tell Donald Trump to keep his money. You're gonna have all your money. We don't even want your money. We're Charlestonians, we don't beg. He can keep his money, he can keep his ideology himself, keep it out of Charleston. Charleston is a city of consciousness and awareness, and we don't run from nothing to nobody. Tell Donald Trump to keep his money. We don't want his bread. We don't need his bread. We're Charlestonians. We got pride and we got dignity. We got one Black man on this council. He's connected the slaves of this city. Remember that. You gotta get a backbone and stand up for this community and Black people in Charleston. You're gonna make a bunch of money in this. $42 million you spend in this budget? For $42 million you're gonna spend in this budget and no Black man get a deal at your discretion. When this is over, you got full discretion for 2 years. Do deals how you want to do the deals. Have a nice, tell your chief of staff, she called the police on me for this meeting. She had the cops all around here. But I spoke at this meeting today. That's my free speech being enabled by this body again and again and again. But guess what? I'm the hope and dream of a slave.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. We have anyone else signed up? I think we have someone else wanted to speak. They came in late. I'm going to give you all 1 minute.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for being here, and I'm glad to be able to make this statement directly to you. My name is Charles Duffy. I live at 3 Short Street. The Charleston City Council cannot pass this ordinance on this language change. This commission, the commission and the committee and the council should oppose it unanimously, including yourself. This ordinance is disgraceful. It's shameful. Don't sell Charleston and your integrity for money, for federal money. This cannot happen in Charleston in 2025. We cannot, for money, delete the phrase racial conciliation in this city. Not with our long history in Charleston. Church just 10 years ago this year. Do not bring these terrible national culture wars to our city. Refuse. File a lawsuit, get an injunction, have courage, please.
Former Council Member Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would love to associate myself with the 2 earlier speakers. I came here today knowing that the majority of council will most likely be paying attention to the risk of the funding that we have budgeted for this coming year. So on that basis, I'm coming to ask the CD committee to recommend to the full council for your vote on Tuesday night that you repeal the complete section that's embedded in what we're calling the Ombudsman Omnibus ordinance. It begins with Division 11 and covers sections 206 through 212. We would like you to remove it, repeal it, decommission HARC, and wait for another day. And I just want to say, on a personal basis, I have no ability to walk in the shoes of the people that I have come to call my friends, my brothers and sisters. I am a white woman who came to Charleston thinking that I understood the society here, having worked here off and on for 3 decades before that. I know now the resilience and the staying power that the Black community has in our community. So I feel like Moses' mother pushing the baby out into the bulrushes and knowing that there's going to be a better day for this child to grow up in. And I look forward to that. I hope I live long enough. I certainly hope my grandson can flourish in a society that is represented now by the leaders we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else before we move on? Thank you all for coming and thank you all for participating. So we'll move on down to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
So
I'll
moved.
second it. Okay. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposes? Ayes have it. Now we go down to the old business. We have one item under old business. It's the ordinance to amend the city's Women and Minority Business Enterprise Ordinance to create the Small Business Enterprise. 2, to amend the Human Affairs Racial Conciliation Commission Ordinance to create the Human Affairs Commission. And 3, to ensure the city program plans, ordinance, regulation, policies, initiative, directive to commissions and committees and practices related thereto conform to federal and state law. Now, anyone want to speak before we go any further? Any council member?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, council member.
just a few things. I have done extensive research within the last week or so since we started on this journey. And I want to thank our corporation counsel for providing us with information on why we're doing what we're doing. However, when I read what was provided to us, I finally saw a definition for DEI. And the definition for DEI is not to violate any federal law. I would argue that HARC nor our minority business programs violate any federal law. And as a result of my interpretation, and it is mine, I think that we're doing a disservice to ourselves by taking this bait. I see, yes, I provided some language. I'll be the first to say that I have. However, as I said earlier, as I researched further, looked at our original HARC ordinance, look at our Minority Women in Business ordinance, I see no violation of a federal law. If there was a violation of a federal law, are we suggesting that as a city, we have been operating under non-compliance with federal law? I would argue, no, we haven't. And therefore, just based upon my review, okay, I think things should stay the same. I know that sounds crazy to some folks, but I see no violation based upon my review of any federal law. When you read the definition of equity and what was provided to us, the definition is consistent with the definition that Hark uses. Again, I question, why are we here? So I'm at this juncture, especially as I conclude my being on council, that I see no basis, I see no reason at this point, based upon my research, that we have violated any federal law that would require us to make any changes. That's just my opinion, based on extensive research to determine what does DEI mean. And based upon it being violation of a federal law, of which in every federal program administered by this city, we comply with those laws. We certify that we complied with those laws. Are we now saying that those certifications were false and therefore making us potentially liable? These are just questions that are haunting me, for lack of a better term. So based upon my read of what I participated in redeveloping, comparing it with the first Hark ordinance, the second Hark ordinance, and now this ordinance, I think the prior ordinance was fine. Thank you, council member and Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Gregory. Any other council member have any thing they would like to say? Mr. Mayor?
Just to address Councilman Gregory's point, if I could ask legal to just opine, as I understand it, we were notified by the federal government that we had to comply with this by the end of this year in terms of all of our ordinances and what have you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the better way to say that is the 2026 grants that are recycling and the ones that we are actively applying for 2026 have these certifications in them. So at this moment, we have not signed anything until we can get this cleared up.
Got it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Gregory again.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. You know, I totally agree with our attorney. But prior to 26, we have been certifying to the exact same laws that we're about to certify to in 26.
But
the only difference, it appears to me, is a program requirement, not a statutory requirement, okay, but a program requirement that talks about making sure that we are in compliance with federal laws. And again, it says DEI must comply with all federal laws. That's the way it's defined. Yes, we got a number of examples. We talked affirmative action. It talked about minority business, et cetera, but all of those were based upon our certifications to specific laws. And if I might add, I think the reason why we have a minority and women business program, it was established as a remedy for past discrimination. If we read what was supplied to us, when we're dealing with remedies that might require preferences, et cetera, that's okay. Based upon my read, no one yet has said to me that we have revoked the executive order that established the women and minority business programs, which many years ago, which was established based upon, okay, a finding from somewhere that there was a violation of something, probably Title VI, benefit services and participation. So again, these are my interpretations, which might be totally different. And I'm not a lawyer, but just based upon my review of everything that I've seen so far, DEI is defined as a violation of a law. And I see nowhere any evidence where we have done that in the past or even moving forward.
Thank you, Councilman Gregory. Mr. Mayor?
I have one question for Ms. Jordan, just regarding minority and women-owned business enterprise.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Jordan, the one of the names we're changing here is city's women and minority-owned business enterprise ordinance to small businesses. Do you only serve women and minority-owned businesses, or do you help other businesses that are not small businesses that are not women and minority-owned?
We help all small businesses here in the city of Charleston.
Okay.
And I will say to you, Mayor, I've been here with the city for over 8 years, heading this particular program. And one of the things, and I came from the federal government side, here in the city, we don't do set-aside contracts. We've never done a set-aside contract for any small business, whether women or minority. Everything is based on being able to be responsive, price, qualifications. Now, what we do have is that we encourage, through good faith efforts, that when we spend over $100,000, that we ensure that they get at least one quote from a certified small business, particularly women minority businesses.
But not exclusively.
But not exclusively, no, not exclusively. So we don't exclusively set aside anything. We hold our Opportunity Expo where we service over 800 small businesses from all over. And you've been there as our guest and you see who's there in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So not just minority and women-owned businesses, businesses from all over, whether they're white males, because this is what we're talking about today is white males. Because when I look at all the architects and the surveyors and engineers that we use on massive major projects here with the city of Charleston, which happen to be white women, not because they're white women, but because they're qualified. So anybody that we use here in the city is qualified. So we don't give any contracts. And that's what the violation that they're talking about is set aside particular contracts for set asides. And we don't do that here in the city of Charleston. Never have.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just one more. Let's deal with race for a minute, okay? I don't know why when that term comes up, we automatically talk about Black people. Race is a protected class under all federal statutes, especially civil rights statutes. Race protects all of us. So when we say racial conciliation, we're not saying Black conciliation. We're talking about all the races conciliating. And these are the kinds of issues that I think as a city we need to deal with. I mean, are we admitting that Hark violated a law? If it did, why did it pass the muster through our legal department? It did. So now, because of the DEI, which to me is saying the same thing, okay, you can't violate a federal law. And it gave some examples of training, of employment, et cetera, et cetera. But the assumption is that there's special treatment for specific groups. And that is not the case. And, you know, as I leave this place, I cannot leave this place, especially coming in with a pretty extensive background in civil rights, to let us just take what has been provided to us and be an example of assuming that we are in violation and therefore we need to make some changes. I would argue that we don't. But again, race is not Black. Nowhere in the Hark piece does it ever mention Black or white, if I'm not mistaken. It's all about race. And in addition, okay, we also talked about taking care of the vestiges of slavery, as well as Jim Crow. Never said Black. So I just want to make sure that we are making informed decisions as we move forward. There's a great likelihood that this is going to pass. But I just want the record to reflect my understanding of what DEI is. And DEI is a violation of a federal law. And we have not violated any.
You finished, council member? Councilman Gregory? Are you
Yes.
complete? You
Yes.
finished?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Any other council member have anything to say? I mean, most of the council members, you're staying quiet, and I don't think why you should stay quiet. I mean, you got the opportunity to say anything you want to say now. You know, it's just your opinion. It's just like my opinion, that if I give an opinion.
Chairman, do you mind if I jump in?
Yes, surely.
Great. Well, thanks for indulging me. I'm not a member of this committee, but I am the co-chair of Hark as it exists today. And yeah, I just wanted to give sort of my view of what Councilmember Gregory just said. You know, I think we have been absolutely in compliance with federal law up till this point, federal and state law regarding anti-discrimination. And the federal government has changed its view of what those statutes mean. And so, you know, while the federal government hasn't done anything that's, you know, specifically binding on us, an executive order is binding on the executive branch. And they are the ones who are passing out these grants. And so, you know, if we are doing something that is directly contrary to the way that they are telling us that they are interpreting federal law, they're not going to give the grant. I mean, we could try to sue them, but you know, if you've been paying attention to the Supreme Court, I mean, this interpretation of these statutes is probably not something we really want to challenge, and so you know, we really don't have a choice here. I mean, we cannot operate this city without $175 million in grants. I disagree with their interpretation of these statutes. I want to be very clear about that. I think the entire history of these statutes and how they've been interpreted should continue, but I'm not in charge of those decisions. We're only in charge of how we how we respond to them. And I think we just have to make a difficult choice here.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when I look back on the great work, it's impressive. I think that by changing the names and simplifying the names, one could argue that they more accurately reflect what, in fact, they do. And candidly, the $126 million is a lot to take a risk on. And from my perspective, this is not something that we as a city and as a community want to get drug into these national cultural wars, because that is something that, once you jump into it, will be very difficult to get out of. And there's really no right, wrong answer. It all just depends on where the tide is in a given moment. So I'd like to see a lot of the work that these groups have been doing to continue. And not get dragged down by definitions. And that may sound trivial to some, and people want to take a stance one way or the other, but I would hate to see the work that these groups are doing jeopardized because of some national political debate that really doesn't help the people of our community. Whereas these groups, I feel like, do have a meaningful impact. So this has been vetted through legal. It's been different iterations have been passed around by various council members. We've tried to make it more accurately reflect what these groups do. And so I think, to me, this is a little bit of wordsmithing that isn't going to change a hell of a lot. And if for some reason we choose to take a hard stand on this, it's a risk that I think far outweighs the potential benefits for picking a fight with the federal government. So that's why I appreciate all the hard work that council members have put into working through this language. I appreciate the work that legal has done. I appreciate the work that this committee is doing so that we can be very open and transparent about this. I think we've come to a reasonable, logical solution that frankly more accurately reflects what these commissions and committees do. I think it does, regardless of how it's wordsmith, I think they have complied with federal law and state law. And so I say we don't get drugged down into these culture wars that are going on that are so toxic at the national level. I say we continue doing generally what we've been doing. We move on and we pass this ordinance that has been worked on by council members and by legal. Thank you.
Hey, before we go on, any other council members have anything to say? How many council members did we have online?
We have Councilmember Parker, Gregory, and Appel, and then, of course, Councilmember Bowden, not on the committee.
Thank you. My thing is, I had on this particular ordinance I was reading over it, I just had so much mixed emotion on it because of the way I grew up and the things that I was involved in all my life. I think I'm probably one of the only council member here beside Councilmember Waring and with his father that we've been out in the civil rights movement, and I was only 14 years old. And when I got arrested almost 14 times, and people always thought it was but black. It was not all about blacks. We had whites, others, marching with us, and they got the same treatment that we got as African Americans. So it wasn't all about blacks. So every time you put things in, they think it's always going to be about African American people. That's not what it's about. And when I read all this and see the changes that we made when we went through the hard, I just had mixed emotion with all the changes. I know when they talk about the DEI, I figured that with the grant, it's the wording that you have to put in the grant now to even receive a grant. That's what it is. It's going to be about the wording. And I just had so much mixed emotion. It seemed like everything is going, to me, my opinion, backwards. And I don't want to go backwards, but I've been there. A lot of you all might not have been there to even go through some of the things that happened in the city of Charleston and in Richmond, Virginia, where I went, and other places. It was rough all over. And stop saying that it's not only was Black people. No, no, no. It was also whites that got the same treatment that we got because they was participating, if you may, with the march. The last march I've been here was in 1969 in the nurses' strike. And I came down, I flew down from New York and came in March in that particular march and went back to New York afterward when they had the curfew. But it's a lot of things that happened here in the city of Charleston that a lot of people was not aware of that we had to go through. And that's all of us. And I said people, because I don't get into that white and Black things. I never did. It's all about people, period. And that's just the way I believe. So when I read all these things and they're making changes with the DEI and all this what the federal government did, you know, and I can't knock the federal government because that's what they did, you know, and we have sometimes supersede everything everybody else is doing. And they say, we're not going to get the grant if we add this in there, put this in particular, when we're writing these particular grants. And that's why I have me in a mixed emotion because I don't want to do nothing to hurt the city that we don't receive grants. And then on the other hand, I don't want to see us going backwards from whence we came. And a lot of you all here don't know from whence we came in the city of Charleston. So that's my dilemma on this, and I was pondering over this the whole time, praying on it and reading over it. And I just can't get my hands wrapped around it to say what I can do with this, how I can support it, how I cannot support it, because it's a juggling ball to me, which way to go. And that's where I'm right now with it. Even on council, when we voted on it, and it's not good to do what I did, but I abstained on it. Because we should vote yes or no, but I didn't want to go either way with it because I was still pondering with it at the time, you see. And I applaud the staff for doing what they're doing. I applaud the attorneys for doing it. I applaud the mayor for what they're doing. And I know it's coming down from the federal government. They're not going to give us the grant. We can lose all this much money, and I don't want to see that happen either. So it just, you just don't know sometimes. Sometimes you just, just throw your hands up and say, oh God, what I should do with this? Because it's pretty rough. Where they're coming down with these things and hurting the city and hurting the small little cities that are trying to do the best they can for all the constituents in the city. And we need the money. That's another thing. We need the money because we can't operate all the time just on our own to write these grants to keep services going on for the city of Charleston when they write for different grants and trying to help other communities or help other programs in the city of Charleston. So that's my dilemma, on Mr. Mayor and staff. I think you'll kind of hear what I was saying and talking about. And that's my dilemma on it. And it just give me some sour taste, if you may, being around so long as I've been in the city, I know running around and been through a whole lot of things that some people have not gone through, being 77 years old like I am, and still getting around and don't take no medication at all. So somebody have been good to me to be able to do those things and just give me really some bad taste in my mouth to see what's happening, that we have to kind of crawl through to get things done because someone else is saying that if you do this, we're not going to get this, or somebody's saying we're not going to get this because if we write this in here or do this, because they're looking at it differently because they're looking at it race and we are looking at racial, and that's everybody we're looking for. White, black, blue, green, doesn't matter. And Mr. Mayor, that's my dilemma. That's the kind of things that I do and always have done it in my life. That's the way I look at things. And That's why I be all in the community, because that's just the way I am. Humbleness, integrity, truthfulness, and that's what I believe. And that's what gives me a really bad taste in dealing with this is what we have in front of us now.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think I respect where you're coming from and I respect your frustration. I think when we've been talking about this and we've been talking about it for several months now and trying to come up with the right answer. And we've gone through several iterations of this. And what really it boils down to for me, and I hope would find some solace in the concerns that you have, is that these changing of the names and changing of the ordinance in many ways reflect what is actually happening with these organizations currently. As Ms. Jordan pointed out, it is not just minority-owned and women-owned businesses that they are helping. They are helping all small businesses. And when it comes to HARC, I mean, everyone's human. Human Affairs Commission versus Human Affairs and Racial Reconciliation. And I think HARC has done a phenomenal job on a variety of fronts in dealing with community human issues that aren't just race related. I mean, for example, when the concerns and questions over Palestine and the Israeli war came up, it was a great forum that was utilized to express views and have conversations, which I think was the intent that was set up for. It wasn't just about race, as has been pointed out by Councilman Gregory and yourself. So again, from my perspective, these are name changes. But I don't see what the commissions have been doing to date have been in violation of federal law, and I don't think what they're doing moving forward will be in violation. But what we're not trying to avoid is having a target on our back for the culture wars that are occurring at the federal level. And so if we're doing generally the same work that we've been doing, and the name is kind of all-encompassing, saying human affairs versus human affairs and racial, or just minority and women-owned business, but it's, you know, small businesses, it's covering all the bases. It is threading the needle, and I respect that. But it's keeping us out of the toxicity that we see happening across this country, and we can continue to do the good work that we've been doing. Sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Councilman Gregory, then we can.
you know, just so we're clear, it was never reconciliation, it was conciliation. Big difference. Heart not felt, but we've never conciliated as races. Okay, so as a result, HARC was trying to not reconciliate, but to conciliate the races, which is a big difference. And again, Mayor, we also have to look at appearances. There are a number of programs in our city that one could conclude that might be DEI the way we're defining it. Okay, it's not based upon the way it's defined as a violation of federal law. And I'm bringing it up because just look at the two organizations that we're highlighting. Okay, they're both headed by women who just happen to also be African American women. They're not the only entities in this city that there are problems. There are some white men in the city that are leading organizations that may have DEI programs. Again, I'm just saying we've got to look at appearance as well. We have two African American women who are heading these two programs and who are being highlighted as though they were doing something wrong. And they haven't, just the opposite, just based upon what Ms. Jordan said. There are assumptions that are made that are wrong. And at some point, we have to take a stand. Slavery was legal. Enslaved people, it was legal for 400 years. How many people turned a blind eye and allow it to continue? A lot of people. So I'm just trying to make things for the record here so that we're clear. Again, I said there's nothing wrong with saying racial because it doesn't mean Black. It means all races. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I think we have gotten a lot of information. Anyone else want to speak? Any council member? Now's your time. I guess not. And you don't have to be afraid to speak. Well, if no one else want to speak, we can call for a motion.
Move for approval.
The mayor made a motion to move for approval. I haven't heard a second.
Second.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Did you say second?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It was moved and second. Call for the question. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Wait, I'm gonna have the clerk do a roll call on this one.
Councilmember Appel,
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory,
Nay.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Just pass me by and go to the next one. I'll come back to me.
that's it.
I'm a member.
Oh, and Mayor Cogswell.
Aye.
And Councilmember Parker.
Aye.
So that's 3 ayes.
That is correct. The ayes have it.
Okay.
That is 3 ayes,
And-
1 nay, and 1 abstain.
Well, I'll just vote nay on that one.
Okay.
So it passes anyway.
So the motion
So the
passes.
motion passes and they'll go on to city council. Anything else we have to bring before the committee before I adjourn? We adjourn.